Hello and welcome to another episode of the Popcorn Conspiracy. I'm Dave G, and joining me right now is my co-host.
Hello everybody, I'm Kyle.
And today's a very special French edition of the Popcorn Conspiracy. So, just say any French word that you know at the moment. Au revoir, pétillon, whatever you want to say there at the moment. But, we're looking at the French Film Festival, which launched in Australia this week, and Kyle and I went along to the media launch for the French Film Festival, and the film that they showed us on the night was a film that if you search for it on IMDb, don't search for it by the name that we're talking about. We're calling it The Godmother, because that's what it is showing as in Australia, and it's also what it was called in France, except there it was La Drone, which means the Godmother. But apparently in other countries it's being referred to as Mama Weed, which to me instantly conjures up a really bad comedy, not what the film is at all. So,
Such a bad title.
so what the film is actually about is about a character called Patience, played by Isabelle Hubbard, and she is a translator for the French police, and she's working on a case where she is translating surveillance tapes that come in Arabic, and she's working on translating them into French so that they can catch a drug cartel. But things take a little bit of a turn for her when she realizes that she knows one of the people on the tape, and she decides to do what she can to try and protect them because they are helping to look after her mother. So, mate, this is a really, really kind of strange film, but what did you think of The Godmother?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting to see a movie that, like, despite being French, it seems like it was really. I mean, it seems to have been really heavily influenced by Breaking Bad and maybe Weeds, the TV shows.
Yeah.
Because, like, the way that the character Patience, she just throws herself into becoming basically like Walter White from the show Breaking Bad, where she decides, okay, a whole lot of drugs just drops into her lap, and she decides, okay, I'm going to sell these and make a whole buttload of money. Sometimes it was funny, and other times it was quite intense. But I'm not sure if making a movie that kind of seesawed between these two extremes really helped. And I also found some of the character relationships throughout the film a little bit forced, where based on their interactions, doesn't really, at least the interactions between the characters that we see as the audience, doesn't really make their behavior with each other and the decisions that they make all that believable. I don't know, I found it was an entertaining film at times, though. What did you think of it, Dave?
Yeah, look, when I read the premise of this film, I was expecting some big things. For some reason, I started to think of movies like Les Miserables that we saw earlier this year, where it was kind of that intense French police drama. I was expecting something along those lines. It's almost a hard film to talk about because to me it doesn't really ever reach those really gritty kind of scenes that you expect from French police dramas these days. But then at the same time, it's not exactly like a light-hearted movie where you could call it like a comedy either. It kind of sits awkwardly in the middle. I agree with what you said about the character relationships, because my instant thought was, when she first kind of turns on the police, is that, like, really? For your mum's nurse? Like, that's all it takes when she's got, like, a romantic interest with a police officer, and it's mentioned a number of times throughout the film that he's going to look like a real idiot and possibly lose his promotion if he doesn't catch this cartel. So it's like you're willing to turn your back on your colleagues and your lover for a nurse whose kids have basically run wild and got involved with, like, it's not even like the kids are innocent, like the kids are guilty of sin. So to me it kind of didn't work in that sense that everything was kind of edging on that whole idea that she would turn on people so quickly. The only thing that kind of saves it, and I think that if they were going to kind of push this a little bit more, was that her late husband was a criminal and she was in that lifestyle for a while. But I would have thought that if you were going to make that part of the reason why she turns, you needed to have made more of a point about that, almost to the point where if you were rewriting the script, you would have made it that she was the criminal mastermind, but her husband was like the front of the business kind of thing. Because it just, at the way it is at the moment, it just feels too easy.
Yeah, like the story is an okay for a setup, but having Patience, her sudden turn to the dark side, like it did feel very rushed. Like you say, just it seems to be just okay. Like she has a few money problems, and she seems to be somewhat discouraged by the way that prisoners and drug criminals are being treated. But there's no real reason given as to why she became a cop in the first place then.
Yeah,
like if she was so against this thing, and like it is, as you say, it's loosely established that that she grew up basically helping her father smuggle, I think it was fireworks or something.
Yeah.
But like this and I don't know, this and like some money troubles and like a ton of drugs falling into her lap. Like it doesn't feel natural enough for her to be completely just okay. I'm going to just go completely evil now. And again, like when you have, I know they've got a lot more time to work with a show like Breaking Bad, but I've got to compare it to that because it's the only other like major media around that kind of deals with the same story. That like. He was dying of cancer, and like he needed to provide for his family. The way he saw it, anyway, he had to provide for his family. And as the story went on, you find out there was more to it, more like personal flaws and stuff like that, which was actually fueling why he was doing what he was doing. Yeah, this movie didn't really do that. It just kind of throws in, oh well, you know, her doting mother's carer's son is a drug runner. She finds this out, and okay, I guess I'm going to deal drugs now. And it seemed very, very light. And I think had the movie been more of a comedy, because it is very comedic at times. I'll go into that in a bit. But, had the movie been more of a comedy, I think that would have, like with how underwritten that whole part was, would have felt a lot more natural. I guess I would have been a lot more okay with it. Because I would have just looked at it as, whatever, it's a fun comedy. But the movie is so dark at times, and it is so serious at times, that it's not quite as, the story isn't really as consistent as I'd like it to be.
Yeah, and like it seems like there's some clumsy mistakes in this film as well. Like I don't want to say anything that's going to be a spoiler, but at one moment, at a key moment in this movie, she should have been recognizable because of her dog, but the dog just seems to disappear. And it's like, hang on a minute, the dog was there. Now it's conveniently not there now that the camera's on her, kind of thing. So, and like
a lot of plot holes and stuff just seem to be completely ignored or brushed away. Like, the camera wasn't working properly, whatever.
Yeah, and like this is a really big release in France because the director Jean-Paul Salome, he was a big time director and he directed a lot of movies for a lot of years, and then all of a sudden just stopped making movies for 7 years. So this is like his return movie after 7 years out in the wilderness. So it's kind of a big return. Um, I just think that even like character-wise, characters come and go in this film all the time. Like her daughters, it felt like her daughters could have just been one daughter.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, the same. There's another really interesting character in this, and I actually thought that it was one of my favorite characters. The character of Colette Foe, played by Nadia Nguyen, who is the Asian, I guess, like landlord of where Patience lives. I found her to be like a really interesting character. She reminded me a lot of the film that came out last year, Lucky Grandma, where you had an Asian grandmother suddenly finding herself mixed up in the world of crime. But Lucky Grandma's storyline worked because if for anyone that has seen Lucky Grandma, you'll know in that movie she accidentally ends up with cash that she thinks is never going to be missed. So she takes it because she thinks the person has passed away and that he hasn't had a chance to tell his family that he won this money at the pokies. But then all of a sudden she finds out that no, the family do know that he's got money because it's a crime family, and they suddenly want the money that their, I think it's grandfather or father had. But like that movie made sense that she suddenly has to get involved in this criminal world because she's got people coming after her. And I actually thought that could have been a better storyline here, almost, where Patience could have been blackmailed. Somebody finds out, like, they made the nurse out to be such a nice person. Maybe they should have made her out to be a nasty person who almost blackmails Patience and says, if you don't get involved in this and help free my sons, I'm going to do something to your mum or something like that. Like, it would have made a lot more sense if she was forced into it rather than making that choice on her own.
Yeah, because it really does seem like it's just by pure coincidence she just happens to be connected to this situation that's going on, and the caretaker, her son, like it's like she knows that her son is running drugs. As I understood it, it's not even like he got into trouble or something like that. It really did seem like that was just what he was doing. You know, like it was like why would Patience? It would be a lot more. I really think, yeah, the movie did, I think, have a bit of a chip on its shoulder, perhaps, about the way that certain drug criminals are treated by the police. Because right at the beginning, the movie, like, it's full on drama. Like the way that the opening scene happens, where there's like a raid, and Patience comes in and she's translating for the cops, and then it goes into the interrogation, and the prisoners are spitting on her and calling her a traitor and all that. It's like that's completely serious. So all that stuff is handled completely serious. But once it actually goes into the real like the drug world, like when Patience really like her interactions with the drug dealers and the meetings, the way she's concealing her identity, and even like her co-workers' investigation into her and trying to find out who she is. Well, it's all handled really farcical. Like it's done really as a comedy on those levels. But then it's only really when the drug dealers that she stole from come looking for her that there's a shift back to like a more serious tone. And yeah, like the thing is, I did think that these two different types of scenes did actually work by themselves. Like there's a part where Patience is trying to make this huge exchange of drugs for money, where she's trying to make the deal go down, all the while trying to avoid the police and other drug dealers all at the same time. And that sequence was incredibly like intense watching it. But yeah, the movie is so messed up between being comedic and being serious, and I'm not sure how much of that is maybe just a loss in translation thing. Like I know that it's one of those things, like French movies sometimes mix a bit of drama and comedy a little bit differently than we might be used to in with English speaking movies, I guess. But yeah, just sometimes that kind of thing really didn't work for me, and like yeah, the like you can have a serious film with comedic moments or vice versa, but I think that the darker moments had me looking at the comedy, expecting it to be more realistic and believable, and the comedy at times was at the expense of the drama and lessened the threat of Patience maybe being caught doing what she was doing.
Yeah, but that's what I think, like, something that I was thinking before, like when we were talking about the film, is it does open with that kind of brutal style, and I think that's why I thought it was going to go into the Les Mis kind of way, because yeah, French films can sometimes mix like drama and comedy quite well, and I'm thinking of a movie that I really love, a French film called a pain in the ass, I think it's called in English. And that does that really well, where it's a mixture of almost like a hitman drama mixed with like a buddy comedy, and it does it really, really well. But it never blurs its edges. Like, you kind of always get a feeling with that movie that even though it's got a little bit of a hard edge, that there's going to be a little bit of comedy in there, where this film doesn't hint at all at the start that it's going to be comedic. Those opening scenes that you talked about with the raid and then her getting spat on in the police station, it does feel like it's going to be a gritty kind of crime drama / crime thriller that the French do so well. So yeah, to me it feels almost like a little bit of a waste. I love Isabelle Huppert as an actress, and to me it kind of feels like a little bit of a waste that she's in this movie that kind of lets itself down a little bit. And I think the really interesting thing that I noticed about this film with the audience that we saw it with was you had a lot of 50 and 60-year-old women who had a little bit of wine in them, and they were hooting and hollering at all the scenes like that were funny kind of thing. And it almost feels like, was that the audience that you were going for, or were you kind of going for that audience of people that love like European cinema with the hard-edged thriller? Because it feels like you kind of awkwardly placed in the middle of both.
Yeah, because I did think Isabelle Huppert she's an amazing actress, and yeah, she most definitely carries the whole movie. Like, I thought she was great in the intense scenes, and she was great in the film's more humorous and wacky moments. But so like, yeah, she was definitely a perfect choice for the role. But as you say, like, I'm on like which audience exactly this film was made for. Whether it was made for a like drunk people looking for a comedy, or yeah, more of a serious crime film, because it as you say, it kind of blurs the lines between both, and at least I didn't think that it really it did it quite as well as some other movies that I've seen.
Exactly. So I guess to sum up now, what are you going to give this one out of 5?
I'm going to give this 3 out of 5. I did find it to be an interesting movie still, and as I said, it worked when it was comedy, it worked when it was drama and thriller, but just overall, I think that the mix of those was a bit weak, and just I think from the characters in the movie just didn't really work for me that well. I just thought that they might need a little bit more work to make them a little bit more believable.
Yeah.
What did you give? What were you going to give it, Dave?
Yeah, I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 as well. I thought the premise was there and the premise was good, but I thought just too many mistakes in the screenplay kind of lets it down. The best thing about this movie ended up being that someone said to me, on the night, if you love Isabelle Huppert, you should check out this French comedy series on Netflix called Call My Agent, and I've fallen in love with it. It is absolutely... it's hilarious, and I just know that in the next couple of years, America's going to remake that series, because it's just... it's like Entourage with full-on comedy, really. So, but yeah, that's probably my highlight of the Godmother is discovering that movie thanks to someone talking about it. So,
Series.
yeah,
Discovering a different show.
yeah, but I guess, yeah, go along and check it out. Some people might really like this. I think it's kind of more aimed towards that kind of like 40 to 60-year-old set that where violent films aren't really their thing, so they need a little bit of comedy. But yeah, it does make a few mistakes. But so that's it for this episode of the Popcorn Conspiracy. We both gave The Godmother 3 out of 5. Go along and check it out. It's playing as part of the Alliance French Film Festival, which is right around Australia. I think running for almost like 2 months this time. So go and check it out. We'll be having a look at some of the other films at the festival as well, but check out The Godmother as well. But for now, I've been Dave G.
And I've been Kyle.
And we'll be back soon with another episode of the Popcorn Conspiracy.